Well, hey everyone, this is Troy Weidman, and just welcome to the Reaching Higher, Discover the Leader Within podcast. I'm here with Brian Clark. Welcome, Brian.
Hey, Troy, thanks for having me.
Well, thanks for being here. Brian is an entrepreneur who serves Reaching Higher as one of our board members. He's also one of our instructors. Brian, you and Angie are the owners of the Clark Family Agency of Farmers Insurance. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, it is.
All right.
I
And
work very.
then you have a young man that you're raising. His name is Isaiah Thomas Clark. So you're a family man also, and you're running for office. You're running for Township Supervisor of Superior Township. So you got a lot of irons in the fire, but welcome.
Definitely, thank you. Thanks again. I appreciate you having me. A lot going on, as you said. But I'm excited
Yeah.
to be.
Great. So today we're going to talk about Brian and his story of reaching higher. And that essentially is going to be the theme of this podcast is we want to interview leaders in our community and to encourage those who have taken the course and also serve those who might be just checking reaching higher out on the power of these leadership principles that we teach. Brian, let's back up a little bit. And can you give our podcasters, an overview of the challenges, some of the challenges you faced growing up?
Well, so as a kid, I grew up in a small country town called South Lyon. And in South Lyon, there's not very many people. Well, it's changed now. It's definitely a growing area. But back then, there was maybe 5 or 6 black and brown people in my school. So that presented some challenges all by itself. And then you take into the fact that I actually moved in with my best friend's family basically when I was in middle school. So, although I was raised in the home of my best friend's family, I was also very connected to my biological family. So, that all by itself it was confusing. There was no book that navigated how to go through that. I'm a black man living in a white town and with a white family that's not my biological family. However, I guess what I'm saying is there's no book on how to figure it out. How do you keep him connected to his biological family and have him still feel welcome into our family? It was challenging all the way around. And then in school, like I said, being the one black guy, at least in my class, there's always a spotlight on you. It doesn't matter what you do when you're different, everyone notices it. So I got labeled as a troublemaker, and I'm not saying that some of that wasn't rightfully deserved, but I didn't do anything outside of the norm of a kid growing up trying to figure out life. But yeah, I don't know if that answers your question, but that's kind of my background.
It does, but I want you to share also that you were also known as an athlete and a leader within the school, because my understanding is you were also captain of your high school sports teams and that. So an interesting dynamic, but talk about that dynamic a little bit too.
Sports to me was kind of the equalizer. I got some friends whose parents, it was like we were friends in school, but when you're not getting invited over to their house, they can't come to your house, and you notice that that's going on with everyone else, you start to wonder why, right? Well, fast forward, the color of my skin was certainly the reason why we weren't interacting outside of school. But I did well in sports. I excelled to the extent to where it forced people to get to know who Brian was. So it really broke down those barriers because it gave us a chance to spend some time together. If all I knew about black people is what I saw in the news, I probably wouldn't want my kid hanging out with a black person either. Growing up in this small country town, it's not like anyone was really exposed to black people. Again, sports really did help break down those barriers and give us a chance to get to know each other.
Yeah. And what I would like you to expand on a little bit, what speaks to me is you had a choice in this. And one of our core values in reaching higher is the power of a choice. And you chose to be a victor and not a victim, because so many could look at those circumstances and the minority that you were at and living not with your family, but another family, and just have a victim mentality around that. So you chose to become an overcomer. I want you to think about what leadership principle did you hang your hat on? in becoming that overcomer as a youth?
It was certainly a process. A lot of it was the people around me. I contributed to a lot of teachers and coaches that saw something in me before I saw it in myself, and just allowing myself to be coached. And again, it was a process. I'm not saying I was instantly this way, but those seeds that were planted in me, even today, are still growing. It's so easy to fall into the trap or the narrative, or to feel sorry for yourself, because I was different, right? So those are some of the facts of it, but that didn't really serve me. Me feeling sorry for myself was not going to get me where I wanted to go in life. And the more I could see that, and the more I accepted that, and it's still a process, right? The better off I am.
Yeah. So did you have a conversation with yourself in regards to, did you have two voices, one positive saying, I have this self-worth, and one that was saying, what are you doing here? Why am I here? I just need to leave. Talk about that a little bit, because that translates back to reaching higher and how we basically look at inner leadership.
Yeah. So that's an interesting one, because it is certainly, I think most black men would tell you the world treats you like a second-rate citizen here in America. And I have certainly felt that way many, many, many times in my life, right? So when you feel that way and you start to move differently, it's easy to go down a certain path. But the more I started to realize, it didn't really matter what the world thought about Brian. It didn't matter what anyone thinks about Brian. It's, what does Brian think about himself? And the things that I am pouring into myself, that made a difference on how I felt about myself, which started to change the path that I went down. And the reason why I say it's kind of an interesting topic is because right now I'm raising a young black man. My son is 3, and it's a challenge for me. And I think this is a challenge for most black men, in the sense that it's like, one, we want to make sure we're teaching our kids. We want them to know that sometimes people do look at them differently. So therefore, they don't get in a situation to where it becomes dangerous. We just want them to be alert and aware. But on the same token, I don't want that self-doubt or that second-rate citizenship mentality to pour into his head. I want him to walk into a room knowing that no one in this room is better than him. Now, he's not better than anyone else either, but I'm not raising him to think that anyone's better than him, or he's any type of second-rate citizen. No.
I'd like you to share a little bit, if you're willing to get vulnerable here for just a second, in regards to when I came to know you. You were dealing with excruciating back pain, and you were taking some painkillers to cope with that. And you made a decision to basically move off of that, and no longer are on painkillers at all for your back issues. Talk to that process a little bit, about overcoming that and what that process entailed and how that involved others.
Yeah. So, well, in regards to being vulnerable, 100%, I certainly believe in just being transparent with people, because ultimately that's the way we all can get over whatever it is. And I have no problem sharing my backstory whatsoever. So when I was 18 years old, my world was rocked. I was in a car accident, broke my femur bone, which is the strongest bone in your body. And I mean, I don't have to explain to you what kind of pain comes with that, right? But at the age of 18, I was literally getting 90 Darvocets a month, which people may not know what Darvocets are, but that's basically the first translation of what we're taking, like Oxy today, or what people take Oxy today. So anyways, at the age of 18, you're dealing with this excruciating pain. You're taking these pain pills just to get through the day, and there was a need for it. However, fast forward to even when we met, now it's 10 years later, and yes, I have back pain from the femur bone, but I was taking them. It went from Darvocets to Vicodin to Oxy, and the years of taking these pain pills. So in regards to allowing others to impact you, it starts with your mom saying, "Hey, Brian, I know you got pain, but you're a different person." And this is going to sound really bad saying this, but it's easy to dismiss it when it's your mom telling you this. Yeah, mom, I'm still working. I'm still functioning. I'm still. This isn't a problem, right? I love you. You're my mom. Love you, right? Then you have a pastor that says it to you. It's like, yeah, I hear you, pastor, but you don't know what it's. You haven't broken your femur bone. You don't deal with this back pain. You don't know what it's like to get out of, to wake up in the morning and force yourself to even get out of bed because you're in pain and just trying to figure it out. And I love you, but you're a pastor. You just don't get it, right? And then you have a friend that says that to you, and you hear that from enough people that you respect, and then it's like, okay, wait a second. My mom loves me, the pastor loves me, my friends love me. They're not saying this to hurt me. What's going on? And I know there's lots of people out there with pain, and I'm not dismissing legitimate pain. But what I will say is, once I made the decision to, this was a problem. I'm not just taking in or whatever for the back pain. I'm taking it for a headache now. I'm taking it because I'm having a bad day. And yes, I'm still functioning. Yes, I still have a job, and I can go out in society. It, it's not the Brian that I'm supposed to be, right? So once I made the decision that I it was a problem, then you start addressing it. But it took. I'm so proud of my circle, honestly, stepping out because it's just so easy to dismiss it, especially when you're functioning. It wasn't like I was stealing from people, robbing people. The doctor was giving me these. I wasn't buying them on the street. This was legitimate. It was justified in my mind. And what I will say again is, once I got off of them, the pain went away. I seriously can't even tell you the last time I've taken a pain pill, and I really can't even tell you the last time I had back pain. And I'm talking years. So, yeah.
Wow, powerful. Thank you for your willingness to share that and the power of the inner circle. And we're going to unpack that here in a couple of minutes. So I want to recap for everyone. So this brings us up to Brian being introduced to Reaching Higher. And prior to that, you can see he was already a leader. He had his own insurance agency prior to being introduced to Reaching Higher. He was a captain. And that's why I love the name Reaching Higher so much, because we're not trying to fix anyone. We're just trying to get them to be having a championship mindset, right? To reach higher so they can achieve their goals. So before we discuss your what you've seen as a Reaching Higher and impacting students as an instructor, how has Reaching Higher impacted your mindset? What's been your biggest takeaway basically before Reaching Higher and after Reaching Higher?
So that's kind of a tough one, but I think the biggest one is translating my mindset from being reactive to proactive. I pride myself in how I could attack immediate issues, right? When something popped up, I could handle it, and I got really good at it. And that kind of translated into me not really being prepared, but because I've been into so many scenarios and crushed it, for lack of a better term. I'm not trying to boast, but it's just like, go into this and an impromptu speech or an impromptu situation. I handled it. So I thought, this is my superpower, right?
Right. So with that, you were already a leader. You were already successful with that mindset. But now you're going to get into, again, that seed of you discovered how to reach higher.
Yeah. Well, so when when your day is managing you, right, and something pops up and it's bam, 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 and bam, 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 and you're knocking these things out. Well, what happens so often is the important things, your priorities, get left to the next day or don't get attacked at all. And by being so reactive and not managing my time, managing my day, and turning it into a proactive situation, I wasn't opening up. It's going to sound like a tagline, but I wasn't leaving myself room to retire or go to the next level or take on anything else, because my day was literally just attacking what was popping up, you know?
Right. So you had to build capacity, and that's what you saw. And Brian, that was through changing that mindset from one of being reactive to proactive, correct?
Yes, definitely. And it's going to sound strange and weird, but it's not strange or weird, actually. It's like, I plan time with my son. I plan time with my wife. I work those things. I work conversations that I need to have into my day now, to where, again, when something pops up, there's going to be emergencies that do need to be addressed. But often I can allocate, wait, I've got time for this over here. I can address this situation in this manner and make sure I'm not dismissing the priorities of my day.
Yeah. And I love the fact that you said priorities versus using a word that we hear out there all the time called time management. Because we really can't manage time. All we can do is schedule it and prioritize it. We all have the same 24 hours in a day. It's just a matter of how do we prioritize what we do within those 24 hours in a day. So in my mind, time management's an anomaly. And I like to say, but I do like to say, if you don't manage time, time will manage you. So has this given you more time? Has this given you more freedom, so to speak, to be and do the things that Brian Clark wants to do too, which is change in approach?
100%. You mentioned me being for supervisor. Like, these things don't happen. Honestly, if I hadn't started changing my mentality, which happened through reaching higher, and learning how to manage my time. When we opened this insurance agency, I excelled in sales, but I didn't really know anything about running a business, right? My wife and I had worked together, but we didn't really know what it was like to own a business together, right? So, and then when you add on top of that, buying a house, having our first kid, all in the midst of a pandemic, if we weren't, had I not gone through the process of reaching higher and shifted my mentality and started getting proactive, managing my time so my time didn't manage me, these things don't happen.
Yeah.
I may have still, not I may have, I would have still excelled and figured out the insurance standpoint, but I would not have been able to open up my capacity to impact others in the manner that I feel like I'm called to do.
Yeah. And it's a whole different ball game to work for a business than it is to lead and own a business. And that was a big aha, I'm sure that you had there too. And I want to I want to go into that because that's right at the time when you were new in owning your business and going through this journey that you decided to get real serious. You were having so much growth as a result of learning these leadership principles that you enrolled into coaching. And as a part of that, you created a vision map. So, how has the vision map and the coaching, what kind of results did you have after you launched into those endeavors?
Well, from a results standpoint, one, being profitable in insurance is not a very common thing. Especially right now, the industry is very, very tough, which I'm sure you can relate. Your insurance bills have gone up. I can promise you that, right? So to be profitable in this industry right now, it's just amazing. And then you take a look at it, and it's like, man, I'm 3 years in, and so from the time when I took the vision map, for my profitability to just drastically increase, be 60% higher than the national average, it it's a blessing. It really is, and that doesn't happen without me going through the class, going through the vision map was really the roadmap that helped me reach that success. That helped me win a trip to, you know, well, it just really helped me get to a place where now I could focus on my priorities and still excel in business.
You also shared that it transformed you into the person that you always knew you could be. So just talk on that a little bit because I think that pertains back a little bit to your family and what you saw there too.
Yeah. So, from the start of my day to the end of the day, it really has an impact on me. You know, from I don't get out of bed, literally do not get out of bed without saying three things that I'm thankful for. Sometimes it's as simple as I'm thankful for the air. I'm thankful that you woke me up this morning. I'm thankful for electricity, right? So the part of the vision maps are like I am statements, who I am, as well as like the goals and whatnot that I have for myself. So those I am statements, those affirmations that I'm pouring into myself, I'm also pouring into my child. Before he could even understand what I was saying to him, I was saying, this is the kind of person you're going to be. Now, mind you, he's going to grow and he's going to make his own decisions and he's not going to do everything that dad tells him to do. but I'm still feeding positivity into him, and that's a trait that I'm certain that he's going to take on with him. So yes, it's impacted me on every single angle. Um, the type of husband I am, the type of father I am, the type of friend I am. I am one of those people where out of sight, out of mind kind of thing, where me looking at my vision map every single day and reminding myself of one, the person that I am, and where I'm going in life. It's it's huge. It's huge for me. One of the things I used to
Yeah.
say all the time was that I'm a procrastinator, right? Well, it sounds cliche, but why would I continue to pour in something that I didn't like about myself? I don't say that I'm a procrastinator anymore, and the power of those words and things, it's transformational and it's life changing. At least for me, I won't say at least for me, it's for everyone. You have to change that if you want to change. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and expecting something to change, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So I'd like you to share your story in regards to being proactive, in regards to setting goals, because you had a nice little perk. You had a nice little vacation as a result of really going into and embracing this proactiveness.
So I was teaching a class, a reaching higher class, and we were talking about setting goals and going through my transformation and not necessarily proactive at that moment yet, right? So, anyways, I had received an email about being the top life insurance producer in the district. If that were the case, you'd win this all expense paid to Torrey Pines. And, I'm a golfer and, never been to San Diego. But when I read it, it was not even something that I entertained because it was just, you're new. This isn't for you. You're not going to qualify for this, right? But as I started to process what I'm saying to these kids and the whole practice what you preach thing, and it's like I'm telling these kids to reach for their goals, to dream big, and shoot for the stars, but wasn't doing it myself. So I challenged myself, and I shared it with the class, like, hey, this is my goal. I want to be the top life insurance producer in the district, and I did it. I ended up winning the competition. I was the top producer in the district, and it was a blessing on so many levels. Before having our son, our wife and I used to travel a ton, but life changes when you have a kid, right? So we had not gone anywhere since we had him, and we had an all expense paid trip to San Diego on Farmer's Dime, which was nice. We stayed right on the golf course. I had a terrace suite balcony. I could literally look over and watch the PGA Open in the morning just off the balcony before going down there. And then I could go down and the food, the drinks, everything was just amazing. And then the networking and the connecting with the agents that were the top. And I don't mean in the district, I'm talking the top in the country. Initially, I'm thinking, like, what am I doing here, right? But as I started to connect and people are coming to me, it's like, wait a second, I am supposed to be here. I do belong here. I did not just earn this, right, but I have value too. And yes, I'm receiving from these guys, but they're also receiving from me too. It was amazing. It was a blessing. And I set another goal when I was there. I said, hey, I'm not telling my wife why we're not coming back to this next year, so I'll be back the next year. Unfortunately, farmers had to pull it because of what's going on with the industry. They didn't fly agents out this year, but once they bring it back, you bet I will be the top producer again, because I'm not telling my wife why we're not going back on vacation on Farmer's Dime again. So.
Powerful, powerful. Thank you for sharing that in regards to just the power of having this proactiveness, the power of having some goals there. And I just love holistically what happens when we do that. I hope all of you that are listening hear that holistically, the experience he had with his family. Because so many times we compartmentalize what we do professionally and personally. We can't compartmentalize. Whether we like it or not, they're mixed. They're together. And that's just a powerful story, Brian. So we've all had this, and you and I have talked about this ourselves, is that, man, when we were teaching, instructing, participating in one of our reaching higher, the growth was doing this. And so as a result of that, there was always a dip after that happened. And any of you who have ever been to a seminar, or a conference, exactly what I mean about the energy, the excitement, and everything that's there. Then all of a sudden, it just dips. So that's where we enter into coaching and the vision map. Brian, I would like to just ask you, you talked about running for office now and having that capacity. Has the vision map filled that void of when you're not in a reaching higher class? Are you convinced it's the tool for you to basically continue living out the reaching higher way?
100%. I would. So the best way I can think of it, and it resonated with me when you said, you've been to a conference. You walk out of this conference and you're all charged up and you're ready to go and you crush it, and you crush it for a while, right? But then once that high, for lack of a better term, wears off, you can get complacent or fall back into old habits, right? Well, what I loved about the coaching and the vision map was it brought it back to me, right? Now, I don't need someone else to question me. Hey, do you have goals set, right? I'm looking at it every single day. I can look right here and tell you that that's my vision map is, right? So it just, or even the charge of who I am, the kind of person I am, or what people can count on me. Like, again, it just brought the ownership back to Brian. So now I can go after this, and I know how to feed myself from the start of my day to the end of this day. I know how to charge my own battery. We need that. I need it for sure. So that's certainly a big thing. And also to those reminders, in the coaching, I struggled with it in the beginning, where I'm part of the vision map is, who are you sharing your dreams with? Where are you planting this tree? What's the soil that you're surrounding with, right? Well, so I was forced to take a look at within and like, okay, well, if this is where I want to go, are these the right people that I should be allocating a lot of my time to? And I don't mean that in any type of negative sense, but we've been hearing it since we were a kid. The type of people we surround ourselves with is going to impact who we are, right? So if I want to be a top producer or a top business owner, then I probably should be spending some time with people that are doing that, right? If I want to be a great husband, a great father, I should probably be spending time with people that are great husbands and great fathers. So again, part of that vision map just helped me own my own journey, and not have to depend on someone else to fuel me when I needed it.
Yeah. And I love what you said there, Brian, because that gets back to our tagline, which is discover the leader within. That leader was already there, because go back to you being a youth, you listened to key teachers and others that were in your inner circle that spoke about your self-worth. And now you're being proactive because of reaching higher, and you're defining your inner circle, and it's just such a powerful thing when we can go from being reactive to proactive. We go to another level. I like to say a championship level. So thank you for making that connection. I want to transition us now, because you started out as a mentor, you started out as a participant, you are now an instructor for us. So I would just like you to summarize what you see reaching higher doing for our youth when it's brought into our schools.
The the power of what reaching. It's a culture change. It really it's shifting the culture of the school. When you take leaders, and put them in a classroom on different levels, whether they're freshmen to seniors, it can be the leader of a sports team, right? You'll see the jock connecting with the kid that's really good in physics or science or whatever, right? And one's a sophomore, one's a senior, and these two would never have spoken to each other, never have connected, right? But through reaching higher, somehow they realize they've got way more in common than they have apart. Now these two can connect. And it just, I think about my own path if I would have had this when I was in high school, the changes, if your school doesn't have it, get it. It's literally the most transformational thing I've ever experienced when it comes to youth. And I don't use that lightly. In fact, I won't even say youth, people, period. I've coached high school football and wrestling for 20 years. I was the youth leader. I have never experienced something more transformational on all levels. But right, your question was more about the high school, as I have in reaching higher, and the barriers that break down. Where again, you have this jock who would never share that he struggles with the way he looks or self confidence or whatever it may be. And everyone around him is thinking, well, this guy's got it all figured out, because their perception of him is he's the captain of the football team, he's the captain of the basketball team, or she's the pom coach, right? But again, once they realize that we all have struggles, we all deal with this, we all have X, Y, and Z going on, right? They can connect. The walls are torn down, especially in a time right now when you have bullying going at a level that's just insane. For these kids to get in the room together and just realize we have way more in common than we have different. It's powerful. It's so
Yeah.
powerful.
So powerful. And I want to give you the opportunity because you're coming up, I'm assuming November, running for election, running for township supervisor and reaching higher. And this experience has had an impact on you. We already talked about the capacity that you have now to be successful in that role because of the mindset shift from being reactive to proactive. But let's think about, you call it your superpower. How is your experience with reaching higher strengthen this superpower, and share with everyone what that superpower is, what you're running on?
Well, my superpower is bringing people together. It really is. And through reaching higher, I realized that. I never would have used the term my superpower is uniting people. Now, if you ask anyone in my circle, they may have said that. And lots of people have connected the dots of we know each other through Brian, right? But again, through reaching higher, that has allowed me to own that, which again, now that I'm running, that is the approach is politics, for one, sets the tone for how we treat each other. And the divisiveness right now going on in politics is just disgusting. I can't think of a better way to say it, where you have the right and you have the left.
It's not leadership, is it?
No.
It's not leadership.
Opposite. It's literally the opposite of leadership. And what ends up happening is we, the people, are the ones that suffer because the right can't let the left get a win. The left can't let the right get a win. And so these two, nothing's being done except for us getting hurt. And I'm definitely not going to be, it's hard for me to even say I'm a politician, but I am a politician now, right? I'm not going to be that politician that gets up and says, I got to do this, this, and this, and make a bunch of promises that I just can't do. But a promise that I can make and that I will do is I'm going to bring people together. Because all the resources we have are always right within our community. They really are. It's just we need to tap into them. We need to connect. We need to realize that we're so much stronger together than we are apart, and we have to start working together. That doesn't happen unless we get to know each other. I talked earlier about some of the racism and whatnot that I've experienced. Again, once people started to realize who I was, they're like, oh, he's no different than my kid.
I just want to thank you and wish you the best. We need more leaders in that space because a true leader is a servant leader. A true leader puts his people first. And how do we make others successful? And I love that that's what your theme is and your why as you run for office. And I'm just excited the fact that we can come alongside of you and help as one of your inner circle members. I know that from your own vision map as you navigate through this journey. So, Brian, thank you so much for being part of this interview and this podcast. I know you encouraged some students who have taken the course, who are listening to this on those powerful reminders. And I'm also sure that you raise some curiosity to those who might be listening to what is this reaching higher thing for the first time. So thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me, Troy. It's a pleasure.